Rebel against defeat, chase excellence, masculinity, and of course, men first. True wealth is health and experience. Let me repeat that. True wealth is health and experience. What does that mean? Health. Well, obviously you want to be in good health physically. That's good. But also mentally and emotionally. You can be in wonderful health physically, but if your brain and your mind and your psyche is not where it should be, you're going to have a shitty life. So those three things need to be there. And a spiritual health. Spiritual health is important. How are you connected to, this infinite quantum field of divine divinity, or whatever you call it? There's a spiritual aspect. One can find it in nature. One can find it in, being good to other people, the golden rule type things. And finally, financial health. Financial health out of debt, living minimalistically, not seeking huge purchases to be validated by others, which is what 99% of all people do. Men and women want to drive the nice cars and have the fancy watches and the fancy vacations to get validation from strangers on the internet that they have no idea that they really give a damn. So there, all those healthy points, work on them, men, work on them. Now, a lot of us are in different paths. Some are starting out, some are going through a shit show, a divorce, a breakup, dealing with custody, dealing with bankruptcy, dealing with losing a job, dealing with losing a loved one, a parent, a sister, a brother, a friend. But we can get through it. And every one of these experiences is only going to make us stronger. I don't know how much I believed that 25 years ago. Really, who wants to go through, let's say, a divorce? How's that going to make me stronger? Most divorces, a lot of divorces weaken men. They weaken them again. And, or breakups, a lot of guys won't try. They won't put a foot forward after an experience like that. Even if I know some guys that got laid off and they went into massive depression. I'm not good enough. They started self-talk that was not good at all. And they ended up, in really 5-10 years later, not in a great place. So our experiences will either give us true wealth in terms of learning from them, becoming a better person for the better, or it could become a life of debt, mental debt, emotional debt, physical debt. It's all how we look at it. It's all how we look at it. So I'm grateful for what I've gone through in my life. I grew up in a family. I was second of 6 kids. Didn't have a lot of money in the 80s. My dad lost his business due to a bad business decision, partnership. And, it took him a long time to grow back and to build back. And we struggled in those 80s. I wore tough skins and non-name brand outfits. I remember I wanted a pair of Levi's, 501 jeans. Remember Shrink to Fit? I wanted Levi's and alligator, Izod shirt. Well, I didn't get Levi's. I got the equivalent of whatever Kmart Levi's were, and I got the polo that had like the dragon instead of the alligator. But I look back at it and say, you know what? They tried. They did the best that they could to get me to exactly what I wanted. I think I was in 6th grade. Remember, Lacoste, Izod, the polos that everybody had, the red, and there's greens and blues and whites, and everybody wanted them. But I look back and I said, I'm glad I wasn't given everything. I'm glad I saw my parents struggle, because it built in me a sense of to do it myself, and also to never be in that situation when I'm a father, to never have to go through that. So I learned from it, and all of my brothers and sisters were very successful coming from a family that struggled a lot in the 80s. The 80s had gigantic interest rates coming off of horrible policies by Gerald Ford and Johnson and Carter, and Reagan had to come and knock the highest percentage was 90% income tax. And he knocked it down to, I think, 72%, a huge tax. And then interest rates were through the roof. The world was trying to figure out what's after the manufacturing phase, which was, the technology revolution, IBM, Microsoft, and so forth. But what I'm getting at is appreciate the memories that you have, appreciate the experiences, good or bad, that you've gone through, but have the mindset that you can get through it, that it might not be right away, it might take a month, a year, 10 years, but as long as you've got your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health in order, you can grow back those finances. You can get to a point where you can live again. And lots of men have lived in dire situations. They've lived in their cars so they could make that child support payment, or they could pay their what have you. They've lived in basements. They've lived with their parents. They've done things that they needed to do to sacrifice for the greater good of their family or their circumstances. So with that being said, that's a little bit of a 5.5 minute rant. You guys go out and remember, health is wealth. Experiences are also wealth, because in 100 years, nobody will remember us. We will all be gone, dead and buried. Basically, pretty much everyone on the planet today is gone. Think about that. And choose wisely. Choose the people you hang out with wisely. Choose the people you associate with wisely. Choose what you say to people wisely. And for what it's worth, go and live the life that you want to live. Don't put it off for another day. Rebel against defeat, chase excellence, masculinity, of course, men first.